What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, April 7th, 2023. As always, I'm PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Phil, I don't know if, because I don't think we ever really talked much golf besides like the match last year with Josh Allen and Tom Brady and all them, but are you into watching the Masters?
No.
Fair enough. Nice, quick and to the point.
That's all I got. My grandpa was really big into golf, and anytime we went over there, he was usually watching it, so that was pretty much the extent of my golf knowledge. And sometimes when we went to Myrtle Beach as a family, he would be watching it in the motorhome, and sometimes I would sit in there because it was air conditioned, and I don't think ours was at the time, so I would go to the grandparents' nicer motorhome and watch some golf, and that's about the extent of my knowledge on golf.
I think I had like a 2-year golf phase. I think that was it. I think that was pretty much it.
I like the hats, shirts, shorts, pants. They got good gear for a very non-uniform, more dress casual sport. They got some great polos, some great hats. I had one of my favorite hats of all time. It might have been Taylor. I don't 100% remember, but it was definitely a golf hat. And I loved it so much, and then I started looking for other golf hats. I don't think I ever really found another one, but I do like their gear quite a bit. They got some great shirts and hats and shorts. Nice. Well,
this was a bit of a teaser for something coming up later on in the show. So if you want to stick with us, you can follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com where all of Phil's fun articles are, and check for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We will start with the Buffalo Sabres. Biggest game in 11, 12 years, something like that. Versus Florida, needed to win, must-win game. They lost 2-1. Cousins with the only goal in this one. Levi 34-36 saves. Shots were 40-36 in favor of the Sabres, and that drops their record to 37-32-7 with 6 games to go. Phil, it was I think I said this, and I think I tweeted it out. This is the best, worst feeling I've had with the Sabres since I was 19 years old, and it makes me feel disgusted.
Yeah, it was depressing because I definitely think they deserved the win, and I think they earned the victory, even though clearly they didn't get it. But like you said, I mean, it was very exciting, and you just have to keep reminding yourself, which is frustrating at this point because they're so close. And they were in this game. They didn't get blown out. They didn't play bad. They left absolutely everything on the ice. They looked really good this game. I think they were the better team out there. I think they deserved to win that game. But it was one of those things, like, as soon as it was over, and I just immediately had the thoughts of, just we're just happy to be here. We're that I think it's the kid in Willy Wonka, the new one, where they just say, or he just says, and you're just happy to be here. And that's kind of what the Sabres are right now. And it's something that I just have to constantly keep reminding myself because we're so invested emotionally that they make the playoffs. And we're obviously hoping that it happens. But for the most part, we couldn't have predicted this season. We didn't think they would be this close with this few games left. We say it over and over, but it's something you just have to keep reminding yourself that we really weren't supposed to be here. The team wasn't supposed to be this good this year, and it's exciting that they are. It's exciting that they're pushing for playoffs this late in the season, but as soon as it was over, and I kind of took a moment to let the heartbreak sink in a little bit because I was very frustrated at the end of the game, especially kind of just waiting for some of that old school Sabres 10 seconds left, puck still finds a way, Chris Drury magic to happen, and it didn't happen. And then I just kind of had to force myself to remember that this isn't the year. This isn't supposed to be the year. This just, it's not right now, but it's exciting to be here.
Right. It felt so good to feel so bad once again. I mean, I used some choice adult words during the end of this game. I used some choice adult words throughout this entire game, and that's the first time since the 2010-2011 season that I've been this into a game like this, besides, the tank games where you were trying to tank for McDavid and Eichel. But it was like I think you summed it up perfectly. We were hoping that they would be in this situation where you would still have meaningful games in March and April, and we've gotten just that. It stinks that you were this close. Your best player on the ice was the guy that's playing in his second game in the biggest game in 11, 12 years for the organization, and you were that close. Like, he let in 2 goals that were just weird ones again. He's let in 4 goals so far, and I know they're playing Thursday right now in Detroit, in Detroit, but we aren't talking about that game right now. We're going to talk about that game on Monday, but the first one banked off it was actually lazy on the penalty kill, which there were too many penalties called in the first period anyways, but they were chasing too much on the penalty kill. It went off the post, off Levi, and then the net. The second one in the third period, right off the bat, 50 seconds in, Tkachuk somehow tipped it from the circle and it got by Levi. It was just, he hasn't let in the 4 goals that he's let in those 2 games, a normal goal, like one that just beat him. And I think it's a testament to him just being, he's not the biggest goalie, and I think I said that on the last show, he's not the biggest goalie, but he's always in the right position. Even when I can't remember who tweeted it, but even when he's wrong, he's right. And it's a weird situation to be in after going so long without a top-notch goalie since like Ryan Miller. Maybe, some days where Jonas Enroth was good, and I know you love Jonas Enroth. Some days where Ullmark was playing well. There's been some, bits and pieces of good goalies, but I don't think we've ever had this much promise in a young guy since Ryan Miller.
I think for me, the biggest thing with him, and we said it before, and I think it's just going to be his MO for the most part, is just how calm he is in the net. Yes. And just his presence back there. He doesn't get overwhelmed by any situation. He doesn't get overwhelmed when, there's a lot of shots coming at him, the puck's in his crease. He doesn't panic. And that's the biggest thing I think that we've seen as a difference between him and UPL. UPL is a little bit more of the all over the place kind of goalie who still makes incredible saves and still does a really good job as a goalie, but he also uses his size to his advantage and, plays the angles very well. But you see, he's just a little bit more, I guess we'll call it loosey-goosey, a little bit more Hasek-esque, where he's kind of all over, but sometimes gets himself caught way out of position, whereas it seems like Levi is always just very steady between the pipes, stays very controlled with all of his movements. He's just post to post to post to post, and then wherever he needs to be, he is. But he just seems so calm back there. I think that's something that we just haven't seen a lot of. I think Anderson is a similar style goalie. Obviously, he has the veteran presence to be that kind of goalie at this point, where he just, nothing is really going to phase him at this point in his career. But I think that's how Levi already is at an incredible young age. He looks like a very mature goalie in just how he's handling himself and just his lack of panic in his play.
And we'll talk about Levi in just a second again, but we'll finish this one up. I mean, it was Samuelsson that took the pen. I mean, even Levi, that one save on the breakaway, the guy's just, like you say, so calm, so collected. The biggest thing, and then I'll end with Levi, is there's going to be characters in this league that try to mess with him during his meditation breaks or after he makes a save and turns around and starts drinking the water. There's going to be, and you even saw it in this game where Tkachuk went up to him, Eric Stahl went up to him. They're going to try to get in his head. And so far through 2 games, and we didn't see much in the Rangers game, but in this game, it's not phasing him. And I think him doing this his whole career, he's gotten in that mind focus where nothing's going to distract him. And credit to him, being only 21 in a few days, it's he's really good. But towards the end of the game, you had the Samuelsson holding call, which shouldn't have been a holding call. He played the position perfectly, but they got the 6-on-4 with about 50 seconds left. Then it was 6-on-3 with about 12 seconds left. I hated the last play design. There was 12 seconds left. Yes, you won the faceoff. Yes, it might have been your best opportunity to get a clear shot on Lyon, but it wouldn't have been Dahlin that I would have had taking the slapper. I mean, even you got the slapper done. There was still 10 seconds left on the clock. This was probably one of Dahlin's worst performances of the year. He drops it back to no one. So it was definitely a no-look drop-back pass. And in that situation, it's 6-on-3. Why are you just not even looking where you're passing? I think the end of the game, which, yes, what are you going to do in 12 seconds? But like you said, Drury magic, maybe that would happen. But it was a bit of a head-scratcher, the last play design to try to get them in.
And you hate to say it, because it's an extremely boring and easy cop-out, but you take it as a learning moment for a very young team that you had an opportunity to tie up this game, and you, like you said, 6-on-3, you won the face-off. Something better. I mean, even for the coach, this isn't just a learning experience for the players. I mean, this is Granato as well. Like you said, I don't know if that was necessarily the best play call to make, was get that one-time slap shot on a goalie who's been seeing the puck extremely well all night. I think for me, a 6-on-3, I would have tried to set up a screenshot and then just hack and slash in front of the net with your, extra men that are out there. It's not like it's 5-on-4. You have a 3-guy advantage. I would have had one guy up top after you won that face-off, throw something just at the net, try to get a rebound, and then just hack and slash until that puck goes in the net for the next 12 seconds. Because there was 3 guys. I mean, they might sit in the net, but at some point you might be able to find someone open with that kind of man advantage. So it's a learning experience for Granato. It's a learning experience for the players, especially Dahlin. I don't know what that pass was. I don't know. I got pretty frustrated with that pass. I assume he was thinking Thompson shifted over, but like you said, you're 6-on to just look. Just put your head up for a second. I understand like you're kind of panicking because the clock is very quickly not going in your favor, but I was surprised he just kind of launched it down the ice, and obviously he's frustrated with it. I'm not saying he's by any means happy with his play in that situation. I'm sure he will learn from it, and that it's not against the refs, because even when that holding call happened, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I didn't agree with it either. I thought it was a great job by Samuelsson, and I don't know what the call was at all. I mean, Samuelsson hit the puck and the guy's stick twice, didn't hold him in the slightest, and got a holding penalty. But when it first happened, and it was before we had all of our penalties go our way, I kind of assumed that was likely it for the most part for that game. It was going to be very tough, even though they played extremely aggressive and really well shorthanded. I was very impressed with the chances shorthanded that they were able to quickly force. But I thought in that moment that's one of those situations where you can't go until 3 minutes left in the third with only one goal. I mean, that's just where it comes down to, where you can't blame the refs on this last minute call, because realistically you need more than one goal in a game to, most likely win or tie or anything. And they only had one the entire game. And for the most part, I mean, we saw that the Sabres had a lot high danger opportunities, just the offensive opportunities they had compared to Florida. They were definitely the better team. I believe we were just talking about it. I believe the expected goal total for the Sabres was 5.3 or something to that effect. It was very high compared to the one that they actually scored. So it's by no means saying that they played a bad game. They played really well, ran into a goalie who just happened to save every crazy thing they were throwing their way. And it was just a very unfortunate end to that game, when I think they absolutely deserved to win it.
Yeah, and I think we got to remember, Florida last year was the President's Trophy team. They had the most points in the entire league, so they're fighting for a playoff spot when they probably shouldn't be. But I thought just the Sabres waited a bit too long to turn the accelerator on, and it seemed like the last 5 minutes of the third period, they were trying to gung-ho it, and I think they waited just a bit too long to hit that NOS button. So, Phil, the biggest thing we've been talking about here is Devin Levi, and on the way home last Friday in the truck with Brooke, she goes, "Do you think Levi's going to be up in the NHL next year after this performance?" And I went, I can't see it. And a lot of things need to happen. He needs to play unbelievable the rest of the season here. He needs to have an unbelievable summer. He needs to have an unbelievable training camp. And then he needs to beat out whoever is in front of him, because unless he's starting here, he's going to Rochester to get the time. He's not going to be up here just to be the backup. And again, like on our last show, we were trying to contain our joy with this. I am turning the switch, Phil. I don't care. I am all in on Levi next year. This team just plays better with him in net. They make him feel, or he makes them feel like they're going to get a save. They don't have to play perfectly back there. Where, yes, the defense has been better with him in net and, him behind them, but he's making those tough saves. He's making the saves when you need a save. And I think that gives the players a bit more confidence. So I am all in on him getting 40 to 50 games next year. The biggest thing for me is who is going to be behind him, because you cannot have the same situation that you had this year. UPL, he has struggled in the AHL. He has struggled in the NHL. He is not ready to carry the load 40 to 50 games. Comrie, you tried it out. Yes, he got hurt, but he's not ready to carry the 40 to 50 games. Anderson might not even be here. So for me, if the plan is to go Levi for 40 to 50 games and have him be the guy, he's going to be 22 years old, 21 for most of the season. You can't rely on him to be able to carry the load. He's going to have good games and he's going to have bad games. What if he comes into next year, he's unbelievable for 10 games, and then maybe he gets hurt or he just starts struggling or something like that? You need to have a fallback option, because next year's playoffs are bust. You cannot miss the playoffs once again with this organization, because you're going to set yourself back so much further. So for me, what is the options behind Levi? It's got to be outside the organization. And I looked into what the goalie market is next year, and there's some decent names out there. The top one on my list, Varlamov. I'm butchering his last name, but he's making $5 million this year. He's 35 years old next year, but he's 11-9-2 with a 2.7 goals against and a .913 save percentage. I would love him to be the backup with Levi, because for me, Levi should get the majority of the games. But if he can't handle it, you need another guy that can do the 40 and 50. And for me, Comrie and UPL, who are the only two goalies besides Levi under contract next year, they can't be your fallback option, because they proved this year they can't get the job done.
First off, you bite your tongue about him getting injured or playing bad. You watch yourself.
I didn't want to say it, but it's out there.
You take it back right now. I agree. I mean, the tricky thing with this team right now is you're really stuck, because UPL can't go anywhere. He is on the NHL team. If he gets sent through waivers, you're losing him for free. There's no way. I don't see any way that he would make it through waivers and clear it without a problem. I think the biggest thing that people forget about UPL is that he's been so injured these last few seasons. I don't know the last time he played a full season the entire way through. This probably would have been the closest until Levi and a few of his own injuries and everybody else kind of all over the place. I mean, he didn't really get a consistent season, but with all of his injuries, his development's been set, I think, so far back to where he's supposed to be. I think he's just going to be a little bit slower of a goalie to develop in general. I mean, prime example would be Allmark was not ready for taking over the reins when the Sabres had him, and then he disappears, goes to an amazing team. Now he's a, Vezina Trophy potential looking incredible goalie. I'm not saying UPL is going to be that, but I don't think you can get rid of or give up on UPL as a solid 1A, 1B with Levi in the future. But I do agree that they need a veteran presence behind that. But then, again, you're sitting 3 goalies on your roster every single time, and that, I think, alone is going to be tough. But I don't know. Again, they're stuck. I don't know. I really don't know what you do. I mean, I don't think you can put Levi back in the AHL if he finishes this year strong, and then he has a full summer to continue to develop and get even better under the Sabres program, and then minicamp, and then you're back at it. I think he, so far, has shown that he deserves to be up on the AHL team already and just kind of skip the AHL, which is insane to think about a sophomore coming out of college that just is skipping all development and looking really good. But if him and UPL are up, then again, you're just rostering 3 goalies, which for a young team that needs depth in other areas sounds really rough, but I do agree with you. I don't think you have any other choice. I think they need a solid veteran goalie who can take over if anything were to happen. I don't think you want to lean completely on UPL as your backup, or like you said, if anything were to happen to Levi in his 21-year-old season, I don't think you maybe want to completely lean on him either. So it's a really tough situation that the Sabres are. I mean, it's a good one. It's finally a good one to have, but it's a very difficult one. And free agent for me that I would want is extremely similar to the one that you were looking at, just a little bit cheaper, which to the Sabres currently means nothing. But 1 year younger, pretty similar stats across the board. Antti Ranta, Is it really Auntie Ranta?
Yeah. Yep.
Auntie's kind of funny. I thought so, but I just feel like just saying Auntie out loud as a first name was a good time. Auntie Ranta. Yeah, but anyway, he made $2 million this year. He was 18-2-4. I think part of that has to do with the team he's playing with as well. He had a 2.2 goals against and a .911 save percentage. So very similar to Varlamov in pretty much every aspect. A little cheaper. I mean, next year, who knows what Varlamov is going to get. So I don't know if it's necessarily any cheaper, and I don't really care about the savings. But again, very similar veteran goalies, I think, can, like you said, carry the load a little bit if needed. I mean, both of them played over 20 games this season, so that kind of shows you right there what they are capable of. And I like it. I don't love rostering 3 goalies again for the Sabres, but at the same time, I just don't think you have a choice. And I mean, Comrie has played really well down the stretch, and surprised that they... Not surprised since Levi has been here, but I'm surprised the other day that you and I kind of talked about it, that UPL got the start and played well. He had the 39 save performance. He, earned it, deserved it, had a solid win. But I'm surprised after Comrie had really good back-to-back games, a shutout, and then I believe a 30-plus save performance right after that they lost, but he played well, that they went to UPL. So I think Comrie's had a good finish to his season, but like you said, is it enough to want to carry him over into next year as your third heavy lifter kind of goalie? It's going to be an extremely interesting offseason across the board for the Sabres.
Yeah, there's what I want them to do and what I think they're going to do. And what I think they're going to do is, and they've given me no reason to not think they're going to be doing this just based on what they've done in the past. They went for Matt Murray, but they were going to get a piece with Matt Murray to take him on. They went for Comrie as the backup, but they're not paying him a ton of money. They went with Anderson again, but they're not paying him a ton of money. They haven't done anything because they're afraid of blocking Devin Levi. And I have never, ever, ever agreed with that. Even you and I think it was yesterday, we're talking about this, where we don't want to quote unquote block Levi. If Levi's the better player, you can't physically block him. He will outplay and play in the net. They're showing it right now. They're not afraid to play him. He's standing on his head and he's earning the role. So I don't think it's possible to block players' development. If you bring in a goalie who's, if they trade for Thatcher Demko, he's got 3 years left making $5 million. Levi's not going to get blocked by him just because of the money situation. I mean, Olofsson's making $4 million. They're scratching him for the young kids. I mean, that's my point. Like, I don't think Levi can get blocked. My thing is, they haven't done anything since Adams has been here about trying to bring in a goalie, not to compete with Levi, but to, like, if plan A is Devin Levi, what happens if Devin Levi plan A doesn't work? And there's all indications it's going to work. He's been playing unbelievable. The stats that he put up in college and everything, it's going to translate to the NHL. But I'm just saying, if there's no plan A with Devin Levi and it fails, I don't think they have a plan B, because currently, I personally thinking going into next year, I think their plan is Devin Levi and UPL. I think that's their plan, and I think Comrie's going to get waived and go down to Rochester and be your third goalie. I honestly think that's what their plan is. I can be proven wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope what they do is they waive Comrie, he goes down and beats their third goaltender in Rochester. I hope they trade UPL because, yes, he's young, but you've proven it. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't done much. He's got an under 900 save percentage in both the AHL and the NHL. I mean, he just hasn't gotten it done. And to me, if he goes off somewhere and flourishes, great for him. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But if Levi is your future, and I think their plan, I honestly think their plan is UPL is their backup to Levi the rest of the time, I can't be on board with your fallback option being UPL and Comrie once again. They need to do something because, again, next year is playoffs or bust. Or if they don't make playoffs next year, there needs to be some kind of discussion on what's going on with this organization, because they're in the best situation right now. I'm not trying to be negative whatsoever. I'm just looking towards the future because the playoff chances are so slim, Phil. They're so slim. Even that Tuesday game, Phil, it was right there. It was right there. But it's just moving forward. I've completely turned the switch. Devin Levi is my 1A next year. It's just I need a fallback option if Plan A doesn't work.
I still don't necessarily agree with ditching UPL, but at the same time, I do agree that if they see if they see Levi as their future, as we have completely jumped on board with 100%, because he seems to be amazing and we love all of his goalie antics and his meditating and he looks incredible. So if that is the case, I don't know like how much longer, even in UPL's eyes, would you be able to keep him if he knows he's the backup? That's the other aspect of this. He has one more year on his contract. Would he even want to stick around knowing he's going to be in Levi's shadow most likely the rest of his career if they kind of go that way next year? So to me, I think it's going to be tough, but I feel like if Levi really takes over next year, which at this point, again, 2-game sample size isn't a ton, 3 in progress, but it seems like even the organization is saying this is kind of our guy. I mean, if you're going with him over UPL right now, and even just his development, just saying, go get him. This is our guy. This is what we want. Everyone's all giddy about him, as they should be. I think for UPL, you've got to be able to see that. And I understand the organization wants that competition, and in the offseason, I'm sure it will be, as they love to say, a wide open competition. I'm sure Josh Allen will be in competition with his backup as well all offseason, because that's all we love, competitions. But the goalie competition, I'm sure, will be the talk of the summer. Is UPL going to be able to stay healthy and step up, or is it Levi's to lose at this point? To me, I think it's Levi's to lose. And if that's the case, then UPL has one more season on his contract. And if you're UPL, same with what Eric Portillo did, just bounce because he doesn't want to be behind Levi. Are you really going to sit behind a goalie that you're never going to get out ahead of? So in UPL's mind as well, he might not want to re-sign with the team past his current contract if Levi really takes over next year. So no matter what, he might end up getting traded next season because he might not want to be here. And I'm sure the Sabres will have those discussions with him, and they might come to the same conclusion. I love Comrie through waivers as your AHL, NHL back and forth kind of backup. I like that a lot. So I'm all for that. And then, like you said, I think it just comes down to getting another veteran goalie. I do believe what you said. I think that maybe they will lean Levi, UPL, and Comrie next year. Like you said, I don't agree with it, but I also could see them leaning that way.
So, Phil, we'll move on to the BSC update here. I see that we talked a lot of Sabres, but it was the most important game since 12 years ago. 12 years ago. Unbelievable. But BSC update, you scored 2.5 points in that game. I scored 8.5. Thank you, Dylan Cousins, for scoring the only goal.
Yeah, I did pretty great, I think. 2.5, solid. Just solid. Also, Tage shouldn't have played injured. I didn't like, we didn't even talk about the offside call.
Oh, yeah, the offside call, Phil. I hate that rule, and I know we were talking about it briefly beforehand. I hate the call. You explained it how you would like to change it if you want to put it here, and then I have a twist to what you're proposing.
So you don't like the call in general because you think it's ruining the sport a little bit, that they're
taking
very
goals away
nitpicky
in a sport that needs goal scoring.
Right. And it's getting, like you said, like a skate blade is literally, less than an inch across, and we're trying to line it up with the blue line, and it's getting just, again, very nitpicky that someone is offside that a ref cannot see in real time, but we're going to go back with a microscope and see that, there was a whisper of ice between his skate and the blue line. And to me, I think it should be adjusted to the point where if the player, by the ref's discretion, has an advantage by being offside, as in if it's a 2-on-1 and the player coming offside is a step offside, and that gives them an advantage on the play to beat the defense, to get that extra step, blow past them on a breakaway, whatever. Essentially, if they're going north-south, if they're going up the ice or down the ice to gain an advantage on a odd man situation or any situation, that they're kind of moving forward, and it gives that player a true positional advantage in the situation, then I think that the challenge should be allowed and the call should be overturned if that is what the ref sees it as. But in this situation, for example, Tuck was skating east-west, and he was pretty much at a standstill, just trying to drag his foot to stay onside, and he was given no advantage whatsoever by what he was doing. Even if he was offside, he just wasn't given an advantage on the play to be offside. So I think in this one, yes, he was offside, but because it wasn't called on the ice, it did not give him any actual advantage on the play to score. And to me, I would say that the no call on the ice should just stand.
So I'll try to sum this up in 30 seconds. The rule and the review and the whole challenge process was made because of a blown call in the playoffs that cost the team a win. I completely get that. It was an overreaction, though. One-time thing changed everything. So while I agree with your idea behind it, I'm going to add a little bit of a twist to it to make it easier than just a what do you call it? A ref's observation. I'm going to try to take the ref's perspective out of it. If a goal happens within 5 seconds of that quote-unquote offsides thing, then you can challenge it. Because I think any more than 5 seconds, the defense has been able to adjust to that. So if they score a goal within 5 seconds of that quote-unquote being offsides, you can challenge it. Anything past 6 seconds and on, you can't challenge it anymore, because I don't think there's an advantage to being that offsides. And I think that's fair, because if the Tuck goal happened like 15, 20, 30 seconds after
no advantage
the
of
offside
being
thing?
offside.
Right. So I think a 5 second, if you have to keep the rule, which I'm completely against already, but if you have to keep the rule, I think a 5 second buffer is enough to fix any of those issues. Because honestly, if more than 5 seconds, the defense and the goaltender has enough time to adjust to that situation.
All right, so we'll flag both of our amendments in the offseason up to the NHL office, and we will let the teams vote on one of the two, and they have to go with one of those.
Our assistant, Sir Chancellor, is typing those up as we speak.
Good.
But next week, they are facing Detroit right now. It is 3-2 in the second period. Who knows what's going to happen? That is 3-2. Sabres are ahead. And then Carolina on Saturday. So good luck to Sabres in this situation. Wildcard watch. Slim pickings, but the chances are still there. Florida and Islanders, 78 games played, 87 points. They can max out at 95. Pittsburgh, right ahead of Buffalo, 78 games played, 86 points. They can max out at 94. And the Sabres, with 2 games in hand, are 6 points back of a playoff spot, but they can max out at 93. They got 12 possible points. You're telling me there's a chance, Phil. 6 games left, 2 at home, 4 away. But they pretty much need to go on an unbelievable run here to stand a chance to make playoffs.
But they have that ability because the next Hall of Fame goalie is already in the net.
We will end it on that. Hall of Fame goalie is in the net. So next quick segment here, and it's PK's Hot Corner time. And last week I was more serious. This week it's serious as well. We started the show off by talking about Masters golf. Here's my hot take. Disc golf, which I have become a huge fan of and a huge avid disc golfer within the last 2 or 3 years. It's better than regular golf because I would say the vast majority of people who live and breathe on this earth can play it. Not everybody can play real golf because real golf is really difficult. I've played it multiple times. I like playing it, but it's stinking hard. You don't have to worry about getting hit in the head by a random golf ball on the course. It's so much cheaper to play once you have the Frisbees. There's no other cost. It's not like you have to pay to use the courses. All the courses are free. They're in public. You can just go to a park and play. Overall, I think it's just more fun because it's not like you're searching for your ball. You're not searching for things. These discs are so colorful you can find them easy. It's just a family-friendly, fun game that is so much easier to play and just so much more fun than regular golf, and people don't take it as seriously. Oh, you can't move the ball off in the rough into the fairway. You have to play it where it lies. Blah, 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 blah. That's garbage. Disc golf better than regular golf, and it's going to be taking the world by storm soon.
All right, so I have a lot to break down here. First off, I think I've only played real golf once. I've been to the driving range a few times. That's a hoop. I think I've only played real golf once that I can remember, and I got shushed from across.
That's what I'm talking about.
Across the holes because I was talking too loudly, and we were in. I'm talking. We played real golf at a course you pay a ton of money for, where we just went all out. I mean, it was your average backyard kind of course, like $10 for a couple holes. Like, I mean, I don't know what pros thought that they were on this course in the middle. I'm pretty sure it ended up raining quite a bit as well. So it wasn't like a great experience for anybody. And to be shushed there because I was talking too loudly, I was like, all right, well, let's settle down. This isn't the PGA Tour over here. And
disc golf, check.
Right. Frisbee golf is a lot of fun. It is challenging. Check. And my arm hurt quite a bit because we played way too much right in a row. I mean, going from pretty much never playing to, I don't know, what was it, like 18 plus that we did in 2 days?
It was probably 18 holes, and then the very next day we played another 18.
Yeah, it was extremely painful. So if you're going to do it, ease into it a little bit. Don't go gung-ho and play almost 40 holes in 2 days. That was painful. The only other negative is going to be that even though the discs are very colorful, sometimes in some of the thick brush, you can lose a disc if you throw it pretty far incorrectly. I think I lost one of Mike P's discs, and I think it was like neon pink, and I launched it. I have no idea where, way into the woods, and it was very thick where I launched. It wasn't like your casual woods hiking where you can go in. It was like you can't move. Good luck getting anywhere near
the
this
rainforest.
Yeah, it was a tough one. But the last thing I want to say, and we're gonna copyright this right now. Trademark, I think, is actually the word, not copyright. That's my bad.
TM.
Yeah, we what about, and hear me out, because mini golf is amazing. And I'm all here for putt-putt all day, every day. So can we create mini Frisbee golf? That's the question.
I don't know how you would do that, but I'm interested in figuring out how.
Not even, I was going to say an obstacle. That's not what I'm trying to think of. Not an obstacle course that you have to like crash through,
no,
but
you want putt-putt, but for disc golf.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit bigger than putt-putt, because those are pretty small, but
right.
A little bit bigger, but give me like a lot of things I got to throw around, throw between, throw under, skip on some water or something. I feel like there's something there.
You should just try Double Diamond disc golf course. It's very difficult. Very difficult.
That's fair. But less walking in mini disc golf.
That is true. That is true. All right. That is PK's Hot Corner for this Friday. So get out there and disc golf. It's very fun. Once you have the equipment, that's the other thing. Once you have the equipment, you're done.
And like, much cheaper than
much cheaper. You know, golf clubs, they can run you a few $1,000s. Bag. Couple hundred golf balls, so much. Once you have the disc, as long as you don't throw it into water and lose it, you're good.
I feel like your average starter set is only like 30. Yeah,
they're like 30, 40 bucks.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah,
it's
very cheap, and you don't even need a bag. You can just throw it in like a plastic bag.
I think
or
most
starter
sets come with a bag.
Yeah, exactly. So that is PK's Hot Corner. Go try disc golf before you knock it. It's very fun. So we'll move on to the Buffalo Bisons here, Phil. Tuesday versus Worcester. That's how you pronounce it, Worcester. Rained out. So they had a doubleheader Wednesday. Phil, rained out. Thursday, doubleheader. Field conditions, not in any position to be playing, so those got postponed. So we have no Bisons games to talk about, even though we were supposed to be talking about 3 of them. The tarp was ruined during one of the storms. Rochester loaned them another tarp, but that one wasn't good enough. Once again, I think the moral of the story here, Phil, is spring. And I know one of these was my hot take, and I know we talk about weather a lot on the show. We should be like weather sports comedy podcast altogether. Spring is the worst season on this planet. That we should figure out a way that we can just be rid of spring. Like if there was a genie and he gave me 3 wishes, I would use all 3 wishes to be rid of the spring season and do the world a great justice.
Yeah, I don't like spring, especially for baseball. I feel like we dealt with this all last season. Yep. There were so many rainouts all the time, and this is rough. You have 2 rainouts, and then your makeup doubleheader is postponed as well. So you're just completely, literally washed away. And it is. I do agree. I don't like spring very much. So I'm not even gonna fight you. I'm all on board.
Okay, sweet. I was ready for a battle here, but I guess I'm not. So prospect player review.
We both love our fall.
We do. Fall elite. Then probably summer, then winter, then that's it. There's just 3 seasons. So player prospect review, we got nothing. BSC update, Phil, we tied. 0-0. So we'll move on. The next show, we got 5 Bisons games to talk about. They got a doubleheader on Friday, hopefully. They got 1 game on Saturday, hopefully, and a doubleheader on Sunday, hopefully. And then we'll make up that 6th game later on down the season. So instead of going over the Bisons, I figured with the rest of the minor league system and the rosters being finalized and those seasons are kicking off, why not fill in some time here, still talking Bisons baseball, because I already promised that we're going to be talking more Bisons baseball and prospects along the way. Why not look in AA and see who might be sneaking their way back up, kind of like Addison Barger did last year, kind of like Adrian Hernandez did, kind of like, a few more guys. Gabriel Marino started off in AA at one point and came up to AAA. There's been some guys that later on in the season sneak their way up into AAA, so why not, put a little note there that, the BSC talked about him first. Ricky Tiedemann, left-handed pitcher. He's one of the best pitching prospects in all of baseball. He's still only 20 years old. Last year, he went from single A to high A to double A and dominated at all levels. He's got a 2.17 ERA and 78.2 innings pitched. His strikeout to walk ratio is unbelievable, 117 to 29. His batting average allowed is under 150. It's just an unbelievable prospect. Orelvis Martinez, he's mostly playing shortstop right now. He's number 4 in the system, 21 years old. Last year in double A, he didn't have the best batting average, but he had 30 homers, 76 RBIs, and he needs to fix his K to B strikeout to walk ratio, 140 to 40. And then I'll just go over one more here. Sim Robertson, right-handed pitcher. He's still only 21. The Blue Jays organization boosts these guys up so quickly and challenges them, and it seems to be working because, Vladdy's up there. Bo Bichette's up there. They got a few more guys up there that are just killing it up in Major League. He went from high A to double A last year, 4-7, 3.23 ERA, 111 innings, 97 strikeouts, 34 walks. They have some pitching prospects on the way, which I'm excited to see get integrated into this more veteran-laden starting rotation with the AAA. And I'm guessing, and if you want to do this as another hot take, I think Ricky Tiedemann is going to be up with the AAA organization by July.
That seems fair. Single A to double A and all of his numbers matched his incredible abilities, right, and they just kind of followed him. And that's really when you kind of move up the ranks faster. I know that seems ridiculously obvious, and I feel like it kind of is, but a lot of times when you make the next jump to the next level, you struggle a little bit. And usually if they don't struggle, they let them continue that level for a little bit longer. But that's obviously when you get the promotion a little bit quicker. Like you said, only 20 years old. And with the current pitching prospects they already have on the team, that's the only thing I can think would hold him back, is that they don't need to rush his development very much because they have so many pitching prospects that are very young still currently on the Bisons. I know it's mixed in with some veterans, and I just don't know. I feel like the veterans, they still want to be able to call up at any time. They have a lot of those veteran pitchers on the 40-man roster for a reason, for injuries. So I think it would take something like that to really allow Tiedemann to move up. It would be some kind of injury, simply because I don't think at only 20 years old that they need to rush the development. But at some point, if players are simply that good and they force your hand, which we've seen plenty of times over the years, it is what it is. If he continues to dominate double A and that is no longer really a challenge to him and you're just halting his development, then yeah, like you said, maybe by July. That's pretty late into the baseball season or mid-baseball season. So I feel like that's a fair estimation. I think those top 3 prospects you just mentioned, we talked about it a little bit before the podcast, that your top 10 prospects in your organization are usually pretty good. Even the teams that don't have the best prospect pipeline, usually the top 10 are still looking pretty decent here. Like you just mentioned, 1-4-7, all looking very solid, all have a chance to potentially see AAA action at some point this year, depending on injuries and call-ups and what happens toward the end of the season. But after that, even though there's still some potential past top 10, I feel like it just really in baseball kind of starts to slide quite a bit when you go from 7 to 10 to 15 to 20 and then there on out. But those top 3 right there that you just mentioned in AA currently, I think all 3 of those at some point, depending on what could happen throughout the season, could see some AAA action.
So, Phil, just 4 more names. We don't even have to talk about them. Just keep them on your watch list. Leo Jimenez, Adrian Hernandez. Yes, that name sounds familiar because he was on Buffalo last year, but struggled down the stretch, so they sent him to Double-A to rebound, and you'll probably see him soon up in Triple-A. Trent Palmer, he needs more time in Double-A. And then Domino Paul McGinney. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. But he's a power hitter. He's going to do very well in Double-A, but I don't think you're going to see him in Triple-A at all this year. I think him and Jimenez, I think you're both going to see full-time in Double-A, but next year, they're pretty much destined for Triple-A as long as they continue to perform the way they are. So, Phil, those are just a couple names. Hopefully, we actually have some Buffalo Bisons baseball to talk about, the Triple Bs, on our next show. So we'll move on to the final segment here. Buffalo Bandits. What? They're not playing this week. Yes, but there are still NLL games going on. There's a couple East matchups that are of interest to Buffalo Bandits fans. We'll go over the first one, Rochester and Albany. If Rochester does lose to Albany, hey, Albany, you beat Buffalo week 1. Let's do them a favor and beat Rochester here. If Rochester does lose, Bandits just need one more win to clinch at least a first-round home game in the quarterfinals. You also got Georgia versus Saskatchewan. So, Phil, which of those two games perks your interest at all?
Did that help? Did that kind of, was that the answer you're looking for? Oh, no. Okay.
Sure. Sure. Why not?
That's interesting. I guess you want Rochester to lose. I mean, I really hate the idea of Toronto clinching a first round home game before the Bandits, but after the last thrashing they just put on us, I guess they've earned it. So that's fair. But I guess overall, yeah, you want Rochester to lose. You want the Bandits to be one win away from getting at least one home game in playoffs. That's absolutely what you want, especially when it's that do or die, one round, one game kind of situation. You want that in Bandit land. So anything that can happen this weekend to kind of inch that goal forward, I will absolutely take. So we need Albany to beat Rochester to knock them down a peg one more.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game that's going to be of everybody's focus. Rochester, they can fall to 9-7, or they can move to 10-6. And yes, the chances of them passing Buffalo are slim, but you want them to be none by just losing to Albany. And again, if they lose, it's Buffalo's one win away, and they got 3 weeks to do it. It's just I'll keep an eye on that game, but for me, I'm actually more interested in the Philly game, or I'm sorry, the Georgia game, just because Georgia's been unbelievable. They're 6-1 in their last 7 games. Lyle Thompson's just been playing unbelievable. Brett Dobson and Ned has been playing unbelievable. They're facing Saskatchewan, who also needs to win. I mean, both those teams right now are looking for a wild card berth that Colorado has. Colorado's 7-7. Then right behind them, Halifax is 7-8. Philly's 7-8. And then you got Georgia, who's 6-8, and Saskatchewan, who's 6-8. Even Vegas is still alive at 5-9. It's just that wild card spot is up for grabs right now, and that's not super important for the Buffalo Bandits, because if the wild card, it automatically goes to the San Diego Seals or Calgary Roughnecks, whoever wins that. I guess even Panther City's up for it too. So whoever wins the West is pretty much getting the wild card regardless. So it doesn't really matter who wins the wild card, but they're going to be sneaking into the playoffs. And Halifax has got an unbelievable offense. Philly's come out of nowhere with Mitch Jones, part of the organization. Georgia's coming on. Colorado, you definitely don't want to see in the playoffs because they have Buffalo's number. And then Saskatchewan, who started hot, has fallen off. So I'm very interested. I think that it's going to be a more competitive game for an East-West matchup is Georgia versus Saskatchewan, even though I'll probably have Rochester versus Albany on, even though I don't think Albany has much of a prayer. But Phil, I also wanted just to look up what's coming up soon in the following weeks. Toronto's got 2 games left, one versus Philly on April 15th, and then they close out their season a week before pretty much everybody else in Buffalo, in Banditland, in the rubber match. Winner takes the series. Winner possibly takes the Eastern Division April 22nd. And then Rochester, yes, they're still alive and possibly can climb up past Buffalo. They're facing Albany again this Saturday. Then they get a week off. So they're off next week. Then they get Georgia and Philly. They got 3 straight home games. So Rochester is not going away yet. They're looking like they're trying to clinch playoffs as well. So they got stuff to play for as well. But those 2 teams are of the most interest to the Buffalo Bandits fans.
Yeah, Toronto. I really just don't even want to talk about Toronto anymore at this point. I don't love I understand the NLL. There's only so much they can do. They're a smaller league. They can schedule things when they can. They get the arenas when they can. They probably don't have, first come, first serve type abilities yet. Hopefully they do at some point. But a lot of times they just kind of get whatever is available, which is why Toronto has 2 games left on their schedule and then a week off before playoffs, which I don't love. I know some teams and people will, kind of be excited that the Bandits get a little bit, I don't even want to call it that because it sounds scary to call it that, but I guess we'll say a tune-up game against Albany to finish their season where they don't get the week off. So hopefully, as long as there's no injuries in that game, at least you're still playing. You can roll into playoffs a little bit with possibly some momentum. I get that, but Toronto gets a week off to rest and still, for the last month of the season, has 2 games, which I don't love that a really powerful team gets to just kick back and kind of cruise to finish their season. I know they have to play Buffalo, and it's going to be a ridiculously massive game, and it's going to be very exciting, but still, don't love it. Rochester, at the same time, I don't know, Albany's been a little bit sneaky at the same time, not really. Georgia, like you just mentioned, very scary team coming on strong, and even Philly, a very scary team coming on strong, trying to fight for playoffs. So Rochester has a little bit of a tougher schedule. I think the Bandits, like you said, with 1 win away, if Rochester loses at some point, I think they're in a pretty good scenario to get at least 1 first-round home game. I mean, that overtime loss that Rochester just took was massive in obtaining that goal, so that really helped the Bandits quite a bit. So I think overall, the Bandits should have a pretty solid chance to get at least number 2 in the East and 1 home game. Obviously, you want number 1 in the East, possibly number 1 overall, depending on what happens with San Diego. But I feel like Toronto's got a pretty sweet setup to end their season, whereas Rochester is, I mean, they definitely have the ability to beat all of those teams, but it's going to be tough for them.
So, Phil, that's pretty much all we got. I mean, we covered a whole show and we talked about 1 game. So is there anything else you want to add to the show before we shut it down for a very busy Buffalo Bisons, hopefully, weekend we got coming up?
These are the kind of shows that we don't get to do very often because there's always games to talk about, and that's usually what we get to talk about. So this was nice. It was a nice mix-up. It was nice to talk about some of the future, talk about some hypotheticals, some goalies. I mean, we could spend a whole episode and then some, probably a whole dedicated show to Devin Levi. I assume we could talk.
You could probably do a whole week of him.
Yeah, at least. Probably every day, maybe a marathon, maybe a 24-hour straight marathon of just Devin Levi talk, because he's great. He's great. He's going to be great, and I can't wait. And that's all I got. That's all I got.
Levi's Love Hour.
Love it. I'm sure he would love it.
Got to. I mean, if we're loving on you, you got to love on us. So on our next show, we got 2 Sabres games we're going to be talking about, huge, massive games. There's going to be a segment where I'm going to be talking about all of Jeff Skinner's antics, because, yes, that's a little teaser because I just saw what happened after the Sabres' 3rd goal. It's lovely, and that's another reason why I love those type of players, just getting out of their other players' skins. It's fun, and then it sets your team up for great things in that same game. It's just a little teaser. Everybody already knows what I'm talking about right now, but it was a nice highlight to watch as we're recording this. We got those 2 games. We got what happened around the NLL with the Rochester Nighthawks and the Georgia Swarm, and then anything else that happens in the NLL. We got hopefully 5 Bisons games we're going to be talking about, and then we'll roll into the week that leads up to Bandits home versus New York. So we got a lot coming up on our next show. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on Twitter, Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Once again, you can read Phil's massive article, even though he didn't talk a ton about refs and goals and stuff like that. There was a huge segment where you're definitely going to want to read if you're interested in Steve Priolo whatsoever. Subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.